Welcome to Spirituelle Sunday, where women of the world meet. Every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, women from around the world unite for communion with true wisdom, soul purpose, and deep destiny. Watch us on most channels at Spirituelle Society or on our website at spirituellesociety.com. Each week, through inspired teachings, soulful reflections, and supermind secrets, we explore the deeper dimensions of spiritual leadership for women and what it takes to live a powerful, purposeful, pure, and prosperous life on this planet today. Hello, beautiful women of the world. Welcome to our Spirituelle Sunday. For those of you who are new and joining us, my name is Lee Jacobs, and joining me is Kathy Roseborough.
Welcome.
And yeah, we had this big conversation, Kathy and I had this big conversation this week, and we wanted to address something that is definitely being felt by so many women that we are both working with and communicating with. And this is the topic of fear. And what we wanted to do, and every Sunday, is our intention is to create a community, a safe space, and a gathering for women around the world so that we can touch on some of the things that you might be feeling. And sometimes it's like, am I the only one feeling this? Am I the only one that is feeling ungrounded, or what's happening in the world? You're probably aware that we are in transformational times right now. And we are recalibrating as individuals, as women, as a collective, as humanity. And one of the topics that is most prevalent right now is the energy of fear. Not only is it swirling around our communities and around work and the planet, but in our own bodies. We have been conditioned on I call it a record of fear. We've been raised since birth in a society, in an environment where there is an energy, like a record player playing, and it is predominantly programmed in an energy of fear. Now, when we're young, we can distract, and as we age and as we grow, we distract ourselves in many different ways through work and being busy and eating and addiction to try to tone down that energy, that tone, that resonance of fear that we know is lingering. But now we've hit sort of a pivot point in the world where we're all feeling like we're cracking open. It's like we can't live this facade, and there's so much fear that it's just spilling over. And what I'm finding, and Kathy will also touch on this, but I'm finding there is a major fear around money. So there is this grappling to, it's not that we want to be greedy or there's a maliciousness, but there is this, I'm afraid I won't have enough. So I'm going to behave in ways I normally wouldn't, or project on other people my fear. I'm spilling my fear over because I don't feel secure. And what if I'm not secure in the future? So this is something I'm seeing on a daily basis, but women are aware of it. It's just we're so used to projecting it on other people, dumping it on others, that now we're at a point where it's like, no, you got to fix it. We got to heal it. And now is the time. And I know, Kathy, you and I were talking about that we're the generation to heal this, to put a new record on the record player that isn't a record of fear. So the energy of fear and also the energy of being distracted goes hand in hand. We are conditioned to be afraid and to always be distracted. And so now we're at a place in the world, and this is what our Spirituelle Sundays are all about, to gather and discuss this and to support you, that this is not the way we're meant to be. This is not in alignment with natural law. This is not in alignment with our highest self. But what do? We're aware, but we're not meant to live this way. And so a lot of women are completely fracturing, and especially emotionally. It's like they can't take it anymore. And we wanted to talk specifically tonight about what is it about fear? Why is it now like spilling over? Why is it so obvious? And then we'll go into a little bit more detail. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Kathy.
Yeah, listening to you, I'm sitting, I'm nodding my head. It's like, yeah, correct. And I think there's, you touched on like generational fear. Like here it is, it's passed down from our, generation to generation. And we are now at a timeline where we can do something about it. Whereas maybe our parents and grandparents didn't have the tools. How were they supposed to deal with it? But then like, let's start with the basis of like, what is fear? Like, what is it that is this emotion of fear that people are experiencing? Because fear can be experienced on many levels. And the one part of that is most common is the physical emotional, which is like we're afraid of dogs, we're afraid of flying, we're afraid of the dark, we're afraid of spiders, like some very physical, tangible, like we are afraid because it's a fear of an unknown that seems to take over our entire nervous system, kind of shuts us down or puts us into trauma. But I think we need to expand on even that fear. Like, at what level are you experiencing fear? Because we have now in our society, we have not only the physical fears, which takes us to material items, such as you said, money, the fear of not having enough money, the fear of not having a roof over your head. What's it going to look like in the future, and the security of the material comforts? But then people have emotional fear and social fear. Like, what happens if I never get married? What happens if I never fall in love? What happens if I go to that gathering and no one talks to me? Or, I feel isolated, or I'm lonely. Like, there's fears that are so causing us such anxiety and distress. And then there's the mental fears. The mental fears are things around, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not smart enough? What if that person gets the job and I don't, because I don't have the mental capacity? Or what if I can't hold it together?
Yeah.
And if holding it together.
And that's perfect, because I just uploaded a podcast episode for Spiritual Society, and I talked about, we don't have those conversations with ourselves. Like, what if I don't hold it together? However, we tend to overcompensate from that. What if I don't hold it, by thinking we're in control, or by trying to overly control our environment, other people, trying to manipulate other people and our surroundings to try to overcompensate. What if I can't hold it together and I'm afraid?
Yes.
And I think a lot of women are coming to it's so exhausting to live that way. And a lot of women are coming to a place now where they're so ready to surrender, but there's fear.
There's fear. Yeah.
There's fear around, well, if I release my controlling ways and my manipulative ways, then I'm afraid that my life's going to fall apart,
Yeah.
So it's like we're swimming. Yeah. It's like we're swimming in fear. And sometimes we might get over one, but then we just hop to another one.
Well, because it's the old Hydra head. You cut off one and another pops up. I mean, when you think about like you said, the fears and how the overcompensation by working harder or stressing or manipulating or, aggressive actions. Well, think about what you're doing to those adrenals down in your physical body that register your foundation. You're stressing out your adrenals, you're exhausting your body. And so it's like the collapse of a deck of a house of cards. If you start stressing out the mental body and have it impact emotional, and impact from emotional to physical, you have a collapse. And this is obviously a thing that is not new. It's just that it's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
It's
Yeah.
getting worse because of the environment. The environment, okay, when you look at fear and we say it's the unknown and out of our control, like, of course, people have natural fears like, a storm's coming. I hope I can get to shelter. Okay, so that's out of your control. The weather, to some degree, it's like it's out of your control. And so naturally, your survival kicks in. But when we start talking about global issues, economic issues, environmental issues, social issues, professional business building issues, now people are afraid, and there hasn't even been anything to happen yet to cause the fear to really be validated because you haven't even set out yet.
No, but it's now at a stage where fear is the default.
Right. But what the soul says to you is stop the worry and the stress and the fear about, and it's imagined, meaning it's a fragmented fear that has its place in resonance with trauma that's already in your body pre-existing within your own experiences and pre-existing in your generational lineage. So the unknown is getting triggered without validation. You haven't even set out. Like, if you've got a business you're going to launch and you're already panicking that no one's going to come to it or no one's going to buy your product, what the heck? Like, you haven't even started and you're already creating fear.
Yeah. And I know that you're seeing this as well, but now I feel it's so bubbling to the surface in everybody that you can't not notice it. The behaviors, at the personality level, the behaviors are so much more fear driven, and choices are a lot of times made now from a place of fear. So people are like, I know my soul wants to do this, or I know this isn't my highest in my best interest, but I'm so afraid that I'm not going to be secure that I'm just going to make a decision that keeps me, in my mind, in my zone, in my comfort zone. So I have noticed that there are people that even 5 years ago were a little bit more about taking the path of the soul, that are now, it's not that they don't want to make courageous choices or faith-based choices, but they feel like their emotional body is so broken that
Yeah.
they just
Yes.
can't manage their fear. So they're kind of going back in they're retreating.
Retreating. Yeah. Well, so the fearlessness that you're seeing that requires the courage and the faith and the connection to the soul, the fearlessness being untapped, or no longer the person feels they can access it. They just don't trust it, not from a faith-based lack of trust, but from the fact that their trauma and emotion has accumulated to such a point that they're
Yes.
afraid to even try. And so they
Yes.
don't know. So the brokenness inside has accumulated now, which is, again, right, the reason we're talking about this. We're going further to get into the solution side of it. But the fact remains that people are frozen, wondering without clarity, wondering what to do, because they can't navigate out of the point of entrapment that they feel they're stuck in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we must validate their emotional fears in terms of acknowledgement that that's how they're feeling. That's not made up. It's not in their head. They are actually feeling these ways. But what we want to go on to say, of course, is while acknowledging that, move to solution of identifying just what it is, where it is, how it got there, what is the root of it. And in terms of solving it, it has to be broken down. And some people are lacking even the motivation to do that. And they need to be carried with like tenderness and nurturing. And let's not kid ourselves. There are people that are at that state where they just can't fathom getting up and trying to tackle all this. And that's why everybody needs to be uniquely addressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
From those that cannot find the strength to those that have a medium sort of initiative or capability, to those that are like, let's go,
Yeah.
right? But we can't cookie cut everybody, right?
And you and I were talking about too, when sometimes you're carrying fear that maybe isn't your own. It could come back from generations before you, but you've
Yes.
been given the position of healing that
Yes.
in your lifetime. But can you mention, because we talked about that in terms of generational, and you had mentioned that we're often carrying multi generations of trauma and fear in our body, so that we can integrate it. And what were you saying in terms of how many generations we could possibly be carrying?
You have to go back and look at 3 to 4 generations back. You definitely want to look at the last 3. So for women, your mother, your grandmother, and your great grandmother. Okay, you want to look at that. You should look at both sides, even though some people say, well, I'm just going to look at my mother, the maternal line, the mother lineage. It's helpful to also look at the father's side of the equation as well, in terms of this inherited weaknesses. These inherited weaknesses, they continue until someone comes along and starts to address them and turn them around. It can go back as many as 4. But if you can tackle the most obvious that you see over and over and over again, where it's just like you're saying to yourself, oh yeah, well, yeah, my mother was like that. Oh yeah, my grandmother was like that. Well, that's, and yes, you're saying it, but you're sort of flipping like it's excusing it. Like, oh, it's in the family. Yeah, we're like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not like that. that's not that's not what it's about. You want to face these things and start digging in. And sometimes you need help. Like, it's just a
Mm-hmm.
matter of, you can't do it on your own and you don't know where to start, which is why we work on healing to getting at root cause. Um, and for those that need to be handled with kid gloves or gently, we have to look at it for that, in that way as well. So it's the fact still remains as a bottom line that women are looking at their life right now and trying to plan their future. They have a lot of intellectual, creative, and intuitive gifts, but they'll be darned if they can get past that
Yes.
veil. There's a veil, and that, yes, that veil
I,
that rests.
exactly. And I noticed too, I was just pondering as my children are, you know, getting ready to enter sort of a new phase of education. And
Yes.
I was pondering that, and this is for another Sunday, but we talk about how much emphasis is put on intellectual development. But
Yes.
look where it's got us right now. It's like we completely are in denial and pretend we don't have emotional fracturing. We feel like inside we're swimming in a stream of fear. We have no idea how to navigate that. And this is why we wanted to create this show on Sundays, to really bring to
Yeah.
the forefront a lot of the tools and the mentorship that we're not trained on. And I think
Yeah.
for the next generation to really remember that, yes, intellectual development is great,
Yeah.
but
But
let's learn the tools and techniques to have a, not just, a very solid intellectual mind, but a very healthy being that understands when we're in a state of fear, how to deal with it,
what do we
to
do?
run, yeah,
Yeah.
to ground, to breathe, to
Yeah.
really feel that I'm okay and I'm taken care of. And these are not tools that it's not natural for women, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, like you said, when it's not taught, like if you think back to your own upbringing, or you think you think about the way the systems are right now, there's very little, if any, comfort and assurance in the educational systems. In the Well, actually, people find that they start off where their children are involved in preschool or toddler groups or things like that where the mothers are present or the fathers. And, it's warm and the warm, fuzzy feeling, and there's a lot of enjoyment. But then as soon as that starts to go off into, now you're getting into a system,
Mhm.
and the child has to enter into that educational system. Well, that caring and closeness, no fault of the teacher, because remember, it's a system. It starts to disappear more and more and more and more. So when a child's there every day for X amount of hours every day, the child learns that this is the environment, and that they start to feel like it doesn't really care, or it doesn't want to show them, it doesn't want to help them, it's not going to hold their hand or walk beside them and help them to navigate through it. Now, can you imagine we carry that into our adulthood?
Mhm.
But we're broken right at the beginning, that the time we actually had to separate from the parents or separate from any sort of realization of some of environmental growth, and all of a sudden we're put in this situation. Now, there will be those that argue and say, well, you have to you're learning to toughen up, you're
Right.
learning to handle the world. And yes, absolutely, I'm not saying it should be a mushy comfort zone, but but there has to be some discussion,
Mhm.
just discussion. There has to be communication. And then when we have that, where there's, the even as an adult, when you're walking away from any situation wondering, what did I do wrong? Or what am I supposed to do? There's no answers. They don't feel like they can go anywhere for answers. And
Yeah.
yet, we're going to spin that right around to the
Yeah,
answers.
and that's why we're here, because we're speaking so often together and really wanting to, it's almost like women are now joining together to re-nurture themselves and almost re-upbring themselves in
Yeah.
such a healthy way, so that we can then band together
Yeah.
and really move humanity into a correct moral compass driven integrity way, where you know optimal health is possible. Because right now, I mean, how can we be swimming in fear, being in this environment, and then everyone's like, well, I want to be in optimal health, so I'm gonna go to the gym or eat better. But it's like, no, we have to completely look at rewiring and reprogramming our bodies so that they can thrive.
The symptoms of the body have to be looked at right away. If you're having physical symptoms, then it's already hit. Your fear of false beliefs and systems of living your daily life based in misalignments to your soul.
Mhm.
You are extraordinarily at your extreme. You're at the extreme of being out of order with the soul if it's hit the physical body. And what I'm talking about is you're having gut issues, you're having body, physical pain in the body, you're having ungroundedness, you're having a sense of a loss of control of your day, you're having a sense of a timelessness that seems like the days keep passing and nothing's happening. You don't feel the structure. And then when you start to feel from your body, especially in the solar plexus, in the guts, like if you're really suffering and from digestive issues or hyper, things like anxiety and depressions, which is a mental, of course, but you can actually feel it in your body. Any sorts of distress neurologically, you're knowing that you cannot continue anymore. And the gift in this is that when you acknowledge it, is that already you're stopping that
Mhm.
process of deterioration. You must see that your processing of deterioration is going to stop right there and turn around to health.
So here's a question for you. I know that this is something I often get messages for. It's when that awareness happens of, I'm feeling so off of my center or harmony. But for women, especially because they're juggling so many balls, a lot of times they're like, but where do I start? What do I do? It feels like such an uphill battle.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
do you have some suggestions for everyone listening? Because I know to some degree we all can do some fine tuning, but when you first become aware, it does feel a bit overwhelming of
So
what to do.
okay, so the very first thing you would like to do is acknowledge where in the body you feel like you're holding the stress, the pain, or the trauma. If you can identify the physical, and you could say just all over. If that's your answer, it's all over the body. But that just, what that does is it brings the mind acknowledgement to the body right away. The master within you, the master, your soul, your higher mind is stepping in right there. As soon as you ask the question, where am I feeling this in my body right now? Now, what just took over was the master. Notice how the body just dropped to a subserviency. As soon as you drop it to subserviency, you're the master. Instead of the body going, I'm panicking, my nerves are shot, I can't, I'm emotional, I don't know what. Stop and say, no,
Mhm.
no, where you're the master, where are you holding it in the body? And when you start to breathe and get get a rhythm going to the best of your ability, just you start with that rhythm. What the breath is already doing is connecting you to the soul. It's the power that's invisible that women forget to acknowledge. The invisible power, because we give all the power outwardly to what
Yeah.
is causing us fear, that we
And
forget that this,
we look outwardly and say, please, outward, make me feel better.
and it's not going to, because there's still
No.
dogs out there that are going to bite you, and spiders that are big, and there's darkness at night.
And
There's all
people
the
who are going
physical.
to dump their own fears on you.
Yes, it's all out there, and you're not going to get the answer out there. And that's why the minute you turn, as I said, you have to roll it over and turn it inside. And as soon as you start to do that, you're already 95% on the way to success right there. That's how powerful the will is.
And it's such a great synergy or complement to the podcast episode, because I was talking from my own experience as a woman, as a mom, as a business owner. When you make that shift, when you're like, I get it, the outside world is just making me more disorderly, I have to now live a more inwardly led life. When you get that, because you can get it in your brain, but when your body gets it, you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm doing it, I'm committed now.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of a window where you're making higher order choices,
Yes.
and sometimes you can feel a little bit alone. And
Yes.
that's one of the reasons why we wanted to be here for those of you at that place, because you might have to not be as socialista as you used to be, or you might need a
Yeah.
season where you're a little more quiet, and people
Yeah.
might be like, what's wrong with you, you know? So
Right.
you'll probably have to change some things in your life, and that time frame until you get your new feet can feel, you can feel alone.
Yes, and it's a bit of the dark night of the soul. It's a bit of that. I have to go inward, and the it's that important to find my soul consciousness. But there's one thing that is the promise out of this, that is the promise of the path of your spiritual path, is that when you do that, the success on the other side of all of that is exactly the goal you will achieve, is that success. And remember that once you start to identify and start to put some effort into just acknowledging that you have control over your breath, you have control over the body, and it's not the external. The external does not control you. Is when you're going to move to phase two, which probably we could talk about next week as we get into how do we contact the emotional body, how do we contact those false beliefs, like how do we turn this around. And so
Mhm.
we have that. Did you
Really
it
quickly,
like
can I ask one
yes,
quick
sorry.
question before we we hop over to For women listening who maybe want to give they're working through fear right now, and they want to give certain areas of the body some extra TLC as they're working on moving through their fear, do you have some suggestions for area? Well, I mean, you talked about the gut, but like specifically any organs or any little techniques that can be
Well,
helpful?
it's the endocrine gland system that will take the brunt of the false beliefs and the traumas and the programs and the emotional disturbance. It's going to hit the endocrine glands. So that's from bottom up. That's your adrenals, your reproductive system, your pancreas, your thymus, which we'll talk about sometime, but the immune system, the thyroid and parathyroid, the pituitary, and the pineal glands. These glands all are the anchors for the various energy bodies or subtle bodies, from emotions, thought patterns, and so on, all the way up to spirit and to soul. So when there's any trauma or blockages or misalignments taking place, it's going to strike those glands. And so the best physical solutions towards physical care would be to identify, if you can, where in the body you hold it so that you will address the nearest or the gland associated with it. Now, you might say, well, I've got many glands, or like there's many problems, in which case you have to do an overall holistic support of your endocrine system. A naturopath would help you with that, certainly supplementation to support. But that's where you start to look for, how do I get help for my deficiencies? Because once those fears start to take over the body and really be invasive, it starts to steal the energy out of you. It actually starts to disturb your ability to ground and be healthy. And to stop and nip that right in the bud, you're going to have to say to yourself, I'm going to look at my diet. I'm going to look at how healthy and how nurturing am I? Am I having too much alcohol? Am I having too much sugar? Am I having, like, what am I doing that's throwing the body into further stress that's impactful on the endocrine glands, which are our hormones?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's the challenge with fear, is that is the stealer of life force.
It does.
And
It will shut you down. It
yeah.
will stop you in your tracks. And you don't need that. We're here to live our lives. And here we're allowing an illusion of the physical world, meaning it has its roots in a false belief, the problem that you're addressing. And if you want to, you will get to that false belief. But in the meantime, you're still standing there shaking in your shoes because you're thinking that it's a physical problem and it's a physical solution. None of that is true. It's not a physical root cause, and it's not a physical solution. That's only a small part.
Yeah. And I think like 5 years ago, maybe we were carrying around our own fears. The challenge now is if we don't make that shift to really a more spiritual, inward led journey, we're now, it's circulating around us to such a heightened level that not only are you going to feel your nervous system frazzle out with your own fears, but going out in the world, you're going to feel the swirling of fear all around you to such a degree that it was not the case 5-6 years ago. So looking to the outside world to help make you feel better will only be temporary relief. And I know a lot of people right now are hooking into, they feel the fear, so they're scrolling all day, or they're drinking more, or they're buying things. Like everything's heightened. But there will come a time, and we hope it is now, where you know you can do it and you're ready to take on a much more fulfilling, higher order life. And you're ready to let the old way go.
Yeah. And that's the paradigm shift we're in. And if anything, it's so much in our favor to embrace that and to take this opportunity. It's so much more powerful right now in terms of helping. Like we talked about how it's feels like it's worse out there and inside of you in terms of the destructive feelings and the fears. But from fear to the fearless is the fact that when we make that shift into what is opportunistic and what is uplifting and supportive as the movement of health and wellness moves across the world, there you have one hand helping the other and pulling everybody along. We can do this all together, but it starts also with one helping, just starting to help oneself.
Yeah, and that emotional freedom of not needing to hook into addiction, and not just
Yeah.
substance or alcohol or food or shopping, but all the little things that we our go-tos to try to ground because we're feeling fear and anxiousness in our body. I think so many women are just ready to move past that now and
Oh,
experience that emotional freedom of the way we're really meant to live.
yeah. I think women have had it up to here.
Yeah.
They're just like, just give me the clarity and let me go. So I think they're also remembering that they're hearing more and studying a little bit more to understand that they have to define themselves now as a spiritual being. Define yourself as a soul here rather than defining yourself as a physical body that is holding fear. As soon
With
as you move away from that,
Totally, totally. With a million labels slapped on and like,
yeah, we don't, it's not the way, like you said at the get-go, you said that's not the way we were meant to live.
no,
We are not designed to live in a paralyzed state of fear and uncertainty and lack of self-worth and wondering what we're going to do with ourselves and will we have enough in the future. I mean, that is just living with worry, stress, and
yeah.
anxiety all the time, and that's not our design.
And one last thing I just wanted to mention too, in the world of where we are right now for women, it can be enticing to, grab a label that is intriguing, like influencer or all of these, labels that are swirling
Yeah.
around. But what I'm finding with women is when they post one on themselves energetically, then there's more fear and pressure to live up to that label. And or being a
Yes.
vegan, and then there's pressure that I have to always be, and it creates a rigidity, and then it creates more fear in the body. So I'm just encouraging women to kind of take those labels off and let the soul be fluid and flexible and lead. And then you don't have the stresses and fears of trying to live into a box, which
Yes.
is so harmful.
Yeah, you said that very well. It's the you don't want to have an identity that locks you down, because as soon as you do that, you're boxing in your ability to expand in your thinking process. You're blocking off the reflection that would absorb, like take, that would receive the soul's guidance,
Mhm.
because you would shut it off and say, well, it doesn't match my label.
Right,
And it's like,
exactly.
like you're
So
locking
harmful.
yourself right out. And so, yeah, that's a danger. Be very careful, ladies, about putting a label on yourself. Be very careful. As soon as you do that, it's like tattooing your aura with
Mhm.
a category that is scarring you, because it's a
And
scar. It's
and social media really loves to get you in that because it asks you first question, what's your category? What's your
yeah.
label?
What's your label?
So
Yeah.
you have to be very mindful that that is part of the conditioning that is unhealthy for women.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, this will be a continual conversation, and obviously this is such a big topic, but we will be here for you every Sunday talking about this and expanding on it. But we also wanted to highlight women in our spiritual community who are moving through fear and also doing good for humanity and bringing women along for the evolved, highest health,
Yeah.
beautiful, expansive journey. And I wanted to
Yeah.
just share one of our beautiful community members, Karen Roy. I love her because she always creates whatever she creates always has humor and kindness and wisdom and community. And she's talking about a topic that many women can relate to on menopause. But when
Yeah.
she was going through it herself, she didn't want fear to be, or the labels, or how you
Yes.
have to do it this way. She wanted to create a news story. So she wrote this book, and I think you're going to be able to see the cover pop up. It's on Amazon, and it recently got a Amazon bestseller title. So congratulations, Karen.
Oh,
But
beautiful.
her book is called "I'm Not Crazy, You're Not Crazy." It's menopause.
I love it. Yes.
And what's so beautiful about her book is that she really has a mission to make sure that there isn't a fear energy around menopause. And it's such a beautiful read. It's filled with so much wisdom and humor. And it's like you're talking to your best friend.
Oh, that's
And
perfect.
she's such a light. And I just, for anyone that feels they're maybe close to that chapter in their world, this is such a book of light and such a beautiful, I don't know, we just really love to spotlight women who are part of a new era for women of, fearless living, heart-centered living, expansive living, and just no ego. It's just heart and higher mind. And so I just wanted to reach
Yeah.
out to anybody who may be looking for a great read, that this might be a great topic for them.
Well, and the beauty of it is with Karen. Karen's such a delightful soul. She has done so well in along her journey of, we'll say, overcoming all the different challenges and letting her skills and her gifts shine out. So when she's letting the flow of her teachings and her consciousness come through her book, which of course will be very successful, she's bringing her light into the world fearlessly, as you said, fearlessly, courageously, and joyfully. And so
Mhm.
she's emanating her light, which is what spiritual society is all about, is helping women to find their own soul's light and let the light within themselves guide them to that which is to be expressed by each person individually, each woman individually. And of course, in Karen's case here, she's trusted herself. She saw a line might have been drawn in the sand, and she walked over it,
Yeah.
to say, no, I'm putting my work out into the world.
And I think more and more women are very careful and mindful that they don't want to contribute to the tornado of fear spilling into women's fields. So
Yes,
their work, they're very consciously creating work that does not have an energy of fear. And I
that's
think
right.
it's really powerful, and we have to spread that message, that especially now that we can create such beautiful work and remove that toxic energy of fear that is not contributing to the expansion of women.
Well, and just think of how every woman is learning more and more each day on how to reflect on who they are and what their gifts are. You see, we have the two sides of the equation. We have that fear or that lack of motivation, trauma, frozen state, and we have the soul calling out from within saying, look at what you have that the universe invested in you. You have this skill and this creativity and this nurturing way, this empathy, this kindness, this goodness, this love. You have all of these very rich qualities about you that when we stop focusing on that which is so detrimental and so traumatizing, to a point where we are building more on what should go ahead and what should blossom and emanate, then this pile of nonsense starts to dissipate more and more as this pile, this growth, this blossoming
Mhm.
takes place. And that's living. Now we're talking about utilizing the tools. Certainly, I don't certainly that we have here at Spiritual Society, but those that are inherent in every woman to find her soul and live by her soul. And fear will just be a thing, an echo in the past. It'll just be
Yeah.
an old story in the past.
Love it. Another thing that we wanted to leave with is it's even, it's hard to put into words, but we wanted to contribute to the healing of women. And Kathy, I know something that you've been leading for many years. We wanted to invite all of you along
Yes.
for this beautiful opportunity for us to support your personal healing in a way that is so important to us. And
And
so
yes.
we've created an opportunity for you to send us your personal healing journey and what we can support you with your healing. And I'll pass it over to Kathy just to explain how it's going to work.
Okay. And this is something that is so dear to my heart. I've been doing this for years and under a different umbrella. We are creating for Spiritual Society what we call the healing list. The healing list. And I'd like that word to really, become familiar with it so that when you say to a family, friend, yourself, you say, um, I'm going to I'm going to present your name to go on Spiritual Society's healing list. Now, what is that? A healing list? Well, on Monday nights, off camera, when we're doing our work in our own inner temple, one thing that is going to happen with your name and your request on the healing list is that your request amongst many, many others collectively are going to be brought into a very sacred time of a healing circle in the inner temple of healing and wisdom. And there will be a special ritual on Monday nights that the blessings and the long distance healing and the connection as a conduit, a connection between yourself and your needs to the great divine light and the spiritual love and the energetic healing. I've had many, many years of experience in this, at least 30 plus years. And I'd be delighted, and Lee is joining in with me on this. And we will be guiding and directing healing to that which you are challenged with. So when you write in and say, okay, my name is so and so and I need healing for this or this or this, and please put my son or my daughter in for this or this, you put down whatever you like that you believe you need, that you would like some help with. And there's the email up on this screen right now, and you will be included in the healing. We've had some tremendous, tremendous experiences and results with healing of this nature over the years. People from all over the world. One that comes to mind was this beautiful minister that had so many problems with. There were the people that were coming to the church and were having some health issues. One lady was struggling with not being able to have a child and reproductive issues and so on. And so this was all the types of challenges that were asked for healing. And let me remind you, it's very sacred. We take this very seriously. And it is a time of profound alignment. And even when I talk about it, I can feel I can feel I can feel the shift of the consciousness. So please, if you wish, if something is you want some help, don't be shy. Just send in your request, and you will be included on the healing list, and you will receive healing.
Thank
So
you.
that is something that is happening right away. And we are putting this out starting now. And we're starting at a time when the world needs it the most. We are women uniting. This, by the way, don't think you can't send in your husband or partners or children's name, like male. This is for the family. So men, women, and children, and whoever needs to be on the healing list, you will be highlighted. And remember, it's confidential. Nobody is going to know what, except of course Lee and myself. It is strictly confidential, and it is a very special healing experience.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will be back next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we hope you can join us then. Have a beautiful week, everyone.
Thank you. Bye for now.